Welcome. In this video, we are going to continue our process of creating a Corto website. So far, we should have created this website. We have this website demo site created, but it just lives locally. The files are locally on our computer. You want to know where those files are stored. So I'm going to go into my RStudio. These are all of the files that went to creating that website that I want to push into GitHub. So these files are located from my home directory in the documents directory inside of OER, inside of demo site. So that's the file path. So that's the path to this directory where all of these files are. So that is good to know. So in this method, we're going to be working with command line or the terminal to sync our local files with GitHub. And this is, I think, the really, really nice and convenient way. So my workflow is going to be, I'm going to edit files locally on my computer through RStudio, let's say, or Posit Cloud. So I'm not working with GitHub at all. And then at some point, I want to take any changes that I've made to those files and push them into, sync them up with the files that are located in the remote GitHub server. I'm going to call that my main branch. So I've got a local branch, which are these files on my computer. I've got a main branch, which is living on the GitHub server. And I want to sync changes that I make locally on my computer to this remote main branch. That's kind of the workflow that I'm working with. And so I think a really convenient way of working with GitHub is through the terminal or the command line. So I am working on a Mac, so I'm going to be using a terminal and probably saying the word terminal a lot. If you're working on Linux, you're also using a terminal and you're probably well versed in this. If you're working on a Windows machine, then you're using the command line, but the commands, I believe, are going to be very similar. But just know what you're looking at in this video is from a Mac. So I'm going to open up my terminal. And if you've never used the terminal, you can just go into, like on Mac, it's called Spotlight, but you can search your computer for an application called the terminal on a Mac or command line on Windows. So I'm going to open that up. And it looks really small, so I am going to zoom in on this a few times over so it's a little bit bigger. And so right now I'm in my home directory by default. If I say like list my files, you can see I can do ls is the command line for list files. So I can see all of the files that are in here. And so my demo site, which was the name of the directory where I have my files, you might have called it something different. But what's really important is if you're going through this process using the command line, then the directory where you have your files, what I've called demo site, has to be the same name as the repo, the name of the repo in GitHub. So my GitHub repo, let me find that website, was over here. So this was GitHub A. Spiegler demo site. And if you were setting up like your main homepage for GitHub, then you chose the repo name to be your username.github.io. So whatever repo you set up in GitHub, you want that directory that you're working with files locally on your computer to have the same name. So this is called demo site. The directory where all of my files for the Corto website are saved is also called demo site. So that's the first thing to check. As long as that is in order, then we're good to proceed. And you can see on this website, I have no files in demo site right now. And it's actually giving me some really useful instructions for how to sync files, that if I've already created files on my computer and I want to push these into this repository, these are a series of commands that you can do on the command line. And we're actually going to enter mostly these commands, slightly modify them. So I'm going to go back into the terminal, but I want to have this website handy because I'm going to enter more or less these commands in. I think I have our version over here. So I'm going to open these up side by side. But the first thing I want to do, let's say I do want to create a README file. I didn't include those instructions over here, but what this command is going to do is it's going to create a README file inside of the demo site. Sorry, I have not gotten to my demo site yet. So I am still in my main home folder. So I want to change my directory. So CD means change directory. And I want to change to the documents folder, OER, and then demo site. So again, this was the location where I had all of the files for my Quarto website. So that's why I'm moving into this directory. And here, if I hit LS, this is going to list the files that are in this directory. And I can see the Quarto YAML, I can see the index file and all of the other files. So I'm going to push these files into GitHub. So the first thing I need to make sure is that my directory over here has the same name as my GitHub directory, and they were both called demo site. So that is in line. The next thing I want to do is open up a terminal or a command line and navigate over to the same directory name. So now I'm inside of demo site. And now I'm ready to sync things up. As long as I have the names consistent and I'm in the right place when I'm entering commands in the terminal. So this is going to create a README file. So if I hit LS, now I can see that a README file was added to this directory. And we're really not going to worry too much about the README file, but again, it's just a place where you could put some information about your GitHub repo. So you could say, hey, this is a repo for messing around with websites, and these are the different files in this repo, and this is what each file does. That's how you could create a new file from the terminal. But now what I want to do is enter these commands in the terminal. So the first thing I want to do is initialize this as a GitHub directory. So I'm going to do git init, and that's going to initialize this as a GitHub website. So this is saying this is reinitialized existing Git repo inside of here. Great. So now what I want to do is go ahead and add all of the files. So I'm going to say git add, and by putting an asterisk over here, this is going to add everything, and it's going to really set up like a queue. So it's going to just not add these files right away to GitHub, but this is kind of the first step, is I need to add these files into the repository. So now it added these files into version control. So these files are now under version control, but I haven't uploaded them into GitHub yet. So the way I'm going to upload them is a series of 2 commands. And we'll talk about how to do this in general. I'm going to say commit, and then I can specify a file name here if I want to commit just a single file. But in this case, I'm going to commit a whole bunch of files. So I'm going to just leave it blank. So by not putting a file name here, this means it's going to commit anything that has any file whose version I've changed. It's going to push those changes to those files. It's going to sync them with the remote version in GitHub. So again, I've got 2 repositories, a local repository and a main remote repository. And so far, my remote repository is empty. But what I've done with the git add is I've said all of these files locally on my computer, they should be under version control. The next thing I'm going to do is commit them to GitHub. So now I'm going to say stage these files that have had changes made to them to be synced in GitHub. So this is the commit stage. So here I could say git commit. If I'm just making a change to one file, I could type that individual file. Since I'm making it, I want to commit all of the changes I've made. I'm not going to type any file name, but in general, you could say something like, this is the file that I changed. And then I'm going to type -m to leave a message for what is the change that I'm making. So this would be whatever message. So this could be my first commit. But again, in this case, I have no file name, so that would be bad. But I want to commit all of the changes, not just a single file. So I'm going to leave that blank. So this is going to stage all of the files that I've changed. It's going to say this is in the queue to send over into the main remote repository. So you could see it's all of these files over here, all of them, even the files inside of the subdirectory that we call docs. Everything has been staged to commit into our GitHub. If I go over into GitHub and I refresh this page, nothing has been moved into here yet. It's still empty. So nothing is going to move until I hit the command git push. Sorry, that's right. This is the first time I'm doing it. So I need to first do git branch -m main. And these sequence of commands are also in the website that I'm following along in these videos. Then I need to set up the repo. So this is just saying this is the location of the remote repo. So it's going to add this as the origin. So now they're kind of lined up to sync. Nothing has been moved until I enter this command. So this is the push command. So this is now going to push all of those files into GitHub. You can see it took 34 files and moved them into GitHub. So now if I refresh this page, you can see all of these files have now been copied into GitHub. So now I've got a remote branch over here that has some files, and I've got my local branch over here where I have some files, and and these files are now synced up in version control. And so in the next video, I'm going to talk about how you can take changes to files that you make locally on your computer, push them into GitHub, or how you can make changes that might have been made by somebody else in GitHub and pull them into your local repository.